everyone. It is 8:30 and I will go ahead and call our meeting to order. I think the consensus is that we all thrive on routine. These kids are back in school. I'm happy about it. So, do we have any special guests here today with us, John? Ask ahead of time, I'm sorry.
Oh, yeah, I did.
Is anyone?
Well, sure. Amy Gullett, is the workforce director at the Bowling Green Chamber, and relatively new in the role, right?
Yes, about 3 months.
3 months in, yes.
Okay.
So we welcome.
Thank you.
And then Becca Loxton is this your first time joining us from Sky CTC?
Yes, I think so.
All right. All right. We're going to overwhelm you. Yeah, it's a fire hose of information. And then looking online, I see primarily board members.
Okay, all right, well, welcome everyone. As a housekeeping note, I just remind all board members that when we're voting, to keep your camera on. And if you do vote online, please state your name and whether it's a motion or second, that would help me out when we're recording that vote. And I will turn it over to John for his opening remarks.
All right, thank you. Good morning, everybody. It's good to have you here, and we're pleased to gather today to provide you update on a lot of the work we've been doing. First part of this meeting, I got quite a few decisions, so we'll run through. So I appreciate that we have quorum and we can get some decisions made and some things voted on. And then we'll move, as we always do, to the strategic goals section of the meeting, where we report back to you on how we are doing towards meeting our goals and objectives on each of our 5 strategic goals. And then we're going to finish today with a farewell. So those are my remarks. They are complete. I will turn it back over to you, Madam Board Chair.
Let's start with the teaser. Okay. So I was talking to John and saying there's lots of opportunity for engagement today. We have lots of voting action. So our first order of business this morning is to approve the June 9th board meeting minutes. So board members should have received and reviewed those minutes. Is there a motion to approve?
I'll approve.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? All right, motion carries. Then next, we have the executive committee updates from July 9th, 2026. All right, have a slide of it. Thank you. On July 9th, we received several operational, administrative, and financial updates. And those operational updates included an overview and an update on both the NDWG Employment Recovery Grant and the new Kentucky Opioid Abatement Grants. Brian then previewed the New American Summit, and you'll hear a little bit more about that later in our meeting. We then received administrative updates that included 5 topics that are up there on the screen. Status of the interlocal agreement, recently completed contracts, see those there. The schedule to update the next 5 board policies and a preview of the upcoming Southeastern Employment and Training Association Conference in Louisville. The July 9th Executive Committee concluded with a financial update that projected the July 1, 2026 through June 30th, 2027 budget at $3.36 million. And then on July 29th, the Executive Committee reconvened, this time to vote on a request for proposal for AI Center Readiness Workshop that will help the Workforce Development Board meet the goals and terms of the NDWG Employment Recovery Grant. So lots of acronyms, lots of words. So back over to John.
All right. Okay, so the first decision point this minute we want to present to you is whether we keep our board meeting that's currently scheduled for October 8th, which also happens to fall on the fall break schedule for many of our schools, or move it to the October 15th. So what I'd like to do, try not to overthink this, is between the folks in the room and the folks online, if you would like to keep it on October 8th, raise your hand and say aye and hold it there so that I'm gonna need Rhonda to get a count of the board members that want to keep it on October 8th. So if you want to keep it on October 8th, can you raise your hand?
Okay.
I think it's gonna become clear that we want to move this to October 15th. So, Madam Board Chair, if you want to make a motion to move it to October 15th.
Okay. Do we have a motion to move our regular scheduled meeting from October 8th to October 15th? Motion for that? So move. All right.
Second.
All right. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
And so for Duranda, a motion made by Dr. Myers, motion seconded by Shannon.
We got a thumbs up online.
Okay.
Several.
All right.
All right.
Thank you, everybody.
Now everybody can go on fall break.
Okay, next up is, we have, I'm gonna ask that we vote on adding a member, the board, to our executive committee. Per our bylaws, we have a 5-person executive committee, and that executive committee basically makes every other one. It meets in the odd months of the year. And, largely what we do in the executive committee, it's usually an hour or less. And that allows us, if we need any voting actions that need to take place in the interim, we can get that knocked out. So it's usually small voting actions and updates. Right now we have 4 of the 5. We have a vacancy, and per our bylaws, the chair may appoint somebody to the executive committee with board consent. So that means we need to vote on that this morning. So the nominee we have for you is present today. If you could go forward one, Brian. Dr. Jody Johnson has graciously volunteered to join our executive committee. Dr. Johnson has many years of experience with Kentucky Adult Ed, and is currently the executive director for the adult education program that serves 4 of our counties. Dr. Johnson's been on our board since February 23, and she has been serving on our finance and audit committee for over a year. So if you'll go forward one. So I would ask if the board is in favor of voting Dr. Jody Johnson on our executive committee, that somebody would make a motion.
I'll make that motion. Okay.
I'll second if I may. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right, motion carries.
Welcome. Who else is on the executive? I know the officers serves on the executive.
So board chair,
Right.
Treva. We've got Josh Anderson from Industry and Forestry Products, Teresa Hayes from Logan Aluminum, and John Eaton. So yeah, I didn't say this, but all 4 represent employers, and I thought, well, if we probably need a non-employer to join the executive committee. So Jody, I got you.
We're a friend of that.
All right. Thank you, everybody. Okay, this one's going to be a little bit more longer form voting action. It requires a lot more explanation. So I'm going to set this up with a series of slides, and I'm going to begin with a little background. So right now, currently, there is a grant that the Department of Labor has put out, and it's called the Reskill Grant. And what the Department of Labor has done with this grant is they reappropriated unused NDWG employment recovery funds. This is a very specific thing. This type of grant serves dislocated workers, people that have been laid off. And what the Department of Labor is seeking to do with this is they've taken these funds and and in this grant, they put a little bit of a twist on it, and they're trying to do something new. And it really focuses in on rapidly getting people reskilled and back to work all within 6 months. And so this grant was published on June 25th with a due date of August 3rd. It's a 6-week window. It was a 6-week window to apply, which is a very short window because these are very detailed 100-page grants. And so when it came out, I reached out to the Labor Cabinet. They told me they were not going to apply as a state. So fast forward about 3 weeks later, they said, we are going to apply because the governor told them we're going to apply. And so the Labor Cabinet was like, all right, we're applying. Anybody have any ideas? And so I had something I'd been noodling on, and I put together, I had a couple calls with the state, and then I started reaching out to all the workforce areas in the state to see if we could get something put together. And ultimately we did. I got 9 out of the 10 workforce areas to agree to this concept. A $1.6 million proposal was put together and submitted before the deadline. And so if we go forward, Brian, I'm going to go through the RFP, the request for proposal process. And as I go through that process, as I explain this RFP that I'm going to ask you to vote on, you'll get a sense of what we're going to try to do with this grant, if approved, and what our concept is going to look like. So let's go forward one, Brian. So why do we need an RFP? Well, we're gonna solicit for two training programs. Well, one training program, one career readiness type program. And so in order to do that, we need to, per the rules of the WIOA, we need to put a proposal out there and let vendors bid on it. So what we're trying to do, we want to procure one consistent AI readiness training model that can be leveraged across the state. We want, because we're dealing with dislocated workers, what happens with a lot of people that are laid off is they typically want to get back to work pretty quickly. Typically, it's very difficult for us to get dislocated workers to sign up for WIOA services. Well, if you've got 8 years of manufacturing experience, I'm not going to sell you on a work experience internship or an OJT. You can just go get the next job pretty easily without us. And so we all, and because this grant is very specific to this audience, we felt like, well, we need to present something to dislocated workers that's going to get their attention, and that's going to be very short duration, but also very practical that they can use and will benefit the employers that hire them. So, and then there on the bottom, what we're trying to do here is augment, not replace existing dislocated worker services. So for the 9 workforce areas, they're going to have responsibility to identify if they have a rapid response or they have dislocated workers. It's going to be on them to find those folks and get them enrolled. But if enrolled, we're going to put them through 2 classes. Let's go forward one, Brian. So what we've put into the RFP is we're asking for 2 standardized short duration live instructor led classes. One is going to be an AI industry accelerator. We're asking for something that's 6 to 8 hours in length, and we'll cover 5 different industry occupations. And I'll give more detail on that in a second, but really very short. This could all be done in one day or broken up into we would work that out with the vendor that gets selected. And then the second would be an AI powered career readiness course. That's a couple hours. And that really teaches people how to use AI ethically, but how to use AI to go find that next job. How do you use it to search for a job? How do you use it to really tailor and tighten your resume specifically to that job in an ethical way? And we've already been doing that service B. We've already been doing that on a small scale with our existing employment recovery grant. So, and we've had success with it. We've been able to attract dislocated workers, and we've had a number of them already very quickly go out and get their next job. So we know that it works. But now this grant would, if approved, would be able to kind of do that same concept, but on a much more statewide level. Okay, let's go forward one. These are the 5 industry sectors where we would want the 6 to 8 hour course. So manufacturing, construction, logistics, healthcare, business operations. These very much mirror the state and local priority sectors. And the concept that's written into the RFP would be, again, I keep saying if approved, because nothing happens if it doesn't get approved. But if approved, what we would do is convene a panel of industry folks from each one of these industries and show them. The vendor would say, here's my curriculum for manufacturing, or here's my curriculum for logistics. Show that to local employers, let them look at it, let them review it and approve it, offer feedback, and tailor it to a degree. And that, having that kind of review process will hopefully enhance employer buy-in on what we're trying to do. Okay, next. So the way this would work would be there's going to be a lot of players, and there's the South Central Workforce Development Board plus 8 other workforce boards across the state. So each workforce board, as I said, that you have to do your own eligibility. You do your own thing the way you do it in terms of working with participants, identifying who's eligible, getting them enrolled into your services. What we would do at South Central is we would be we would centralize this process. We would, we would manage the contract with the vendor. We're going to manage the RFP process. We would manage the contract. We would manage all the invoicing for these classes. We would manage the calendar. And we'd get all that communicated out between the contractor and the workforce areas. And so we would play middleman, really, and communicator and bill payer. And of course, the contractor's got to develop the curriculum, deliver it. They've got to keep reports. They've got to, we as a workforce board would have to gather those reports, and we would have reporting requirements back up to the state and the Department of Labor. And then employers, we want employers to be fully engaged in this, validate the curriculum, provide feedback. Obviously, we want employers engaged, that ultimately we need to get folks hired. That's at the end of the day, we want to see these folks get hired as quickly as possible. Okay, let's go forward one. This just lays out, this slide just lays out different areas that the vendor would be responsible for in terms of the implementation plan, the curriculum, attendance records, performance. Bottom line, what we've put into the grant, and this would be a 3-year grant, is we would serve 980 dislocated workers over 3 years statewide. And that sounds like a lot, but it's not a lot. That 980, if you break it down, and the math on this, the calculus, if you will, was on average, there's oh gosh, I shouldn't have said I'm going to do the math on this. We looked at how many people are laid off, rapid response number statewide each year, and that number, when you take that number and you multiply it times 5%, that comes out to about 279 people a year, and 279 times 3 gets you close to 980. So we're saying that we would serve 5% of all the people that get laid off each year over the next 3 years. And we could probably do better than that. Probably serve a lot more than that. So what's a little wonky about coming up with these numbers is we also had to take a guess at what it's going to cost per person, that we don't, because we haven't gone through an RFP process and we haven't had vendors tell us what the cost per person is. So if the cost per person comes in lower than what we factored in, then we'll be able to serve even more people than 980. All right, next. This would be the proposed procurement schedule. So if you guys approve this today, we would like to get this published by tomorrow. Then there will be a response window where questions can get submitted. We'd ask for proposals by mid-September, and then we'd use the last part of September to have a review committee go through each of the proposals, score them, make a decision. This timeline runs in parallel really with Department of Labor's decision timeline. Department of Labor is supposed to issue decisions on this grant by the end of September. So we're trying to time this up so that we have our decision by the end of September. And then if the state gets approved and we get this funding, then we can then go into contract negotiations with the vendor that's been identified and get that contract put in place and get the grant rolling very quickly. All right, next. This is the evaluation. How we're going to evaluate and let's keep going forward in the interest of time. Okay, a couple of safeguards. I just on this again, all this is contingent. First and foremost, it's all contingent upon being approved. There, no money will get spent, no work will be done unless this gets approved by the Department of Labor. And that's how this whole request for proposal is structured. It's all contingent. If Kentucky wins the grant and we get awarded it, then if you look there in the middle, approvals and negotiation, what's written into the RFP is, obviously the board would be involved in the review committee that makes the decision on the vendor. And then I would do the contract negotiations, but I would bring that to the board for decision on the contract. Have the board approve the contract before we move it forward. And then, of course, there's a clause in there that we can cancel this at any time. It's down there at the bottom. We don't get the funding or we don't want to do it, we can always cancel it. So that's made clear over and over again throughout the RFP. Are there any questions before I ask for a motion to vote on this? Is there any questions about the concept? Well, I had a number of employers write letters of support. I had, again, 9 out of the 8 other workforce boards in the state, when they saw the concept, said, yes, sign me up, which it's very difficult to get unity among all that many workforce boards in the state. Because we all do our own, we have to do what WIOA says, but we also do our own thing. So had a lot of, so there is a lot of interest. Yes.
Is this in general AI or just like ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini, like because it needs a specific one?
Well, when you look at the RFP, the vendor has to disclose which ones they intend to utilize and present. But the RFP also says that we can't make participants buy any AI platforms. And they're not going. There's no cost to the participant will incur.
Have you talked to those people who built that new refugees with their platform?
About this specifically.
Mm-hmm.
No, I've not talked to them about this specifically, but I mean, they can always
Completely
apply.
educated in that. Yeah. Or cool.
Good question, though. We've fielded, I mean, well, I think we're gonna field a lot of questions on the RFP. So I think we'll get an interesting group of organizations that apply.
Yeah. I think it's cool.
Well, a couple years ago, we had a 4-region area get a statewide reserve grant for cyber training. And when it was approved, the state said, hey, South Central, you're going to manage all of this. So all the money came to us, but we ended up having to do something like this. The coordination with the vendor, the coordination on payments, verifying that the participants were enrolled. And so they kind of created a little bit of a monster, because now I know how to do it. I know the process and the systems in place to do it. So, I mean, I have a lot of confidence we can pull this off if it gets approved. We have all the right people on our team to do it. All right. There is a suggested wording motion,
There's only two.
only two acronyms, yes.
Does somebody have to say that out loud?
This is Sam Ford and I move.
I move that the South Central
I
Workforce.
move that the South Central Workforce Development Board approve issuance of the Kentucky AI Workforce Readiness Network RFP, authorize staff to make necessary non-material revisions and conduct the procurement process with any contract award contingent upon Kentucky's receipt of reskill DWG funding and all required approvals.
And I second it.
Thank you.
Good job,
Thank you,
Sam.
Sam, for doing the heavy lifting.
Beautiful.
Sam has been being licensed this meeting.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you, Sam with the radio voice. Thank you, sir.
Should we make mention of the current RFP and ask if anybody would be interested, just to whet the appetite of, if anybody wants to be on that panel too?
Let's move forward.
Move forward, okay. Yeah, we should.
All right, Michelle, with National Label, good morning.
Good morning. Good morning, everyone. We have finally reached the end of the fiscal period. You can flip to the next slide for me. Thank you. All right, this presentation is for the period ending June 30, 2026. The fiscal year started in July and ended in June. The total forecasted revenues are $3,812,345, and the actual revenues were $3,322,329, resulting in a year-to-date variance of $490,000. The total forecasted annual expenses were $3,329,000, and the actual expenses were $3,328,000. So we did very good controlling our expenses there. The total deficit was $5,750, and that deficit mainly contributed from our foundation, our Sky Foundation, and not from like the WIOA contract. So just wanted to call that out. Is there a second page? All right. So the statement of financial position is a balance sheet for other businesses. So the total assets and liabilities were $392,746 each. And that concludes the presentation. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Michelle. There's no questions on our financial report. There a motion to move to accept?
I move to accept. I'll second.
Sandra? Joda?
Thank you.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All right, any opposed? All right, motion carries.
Thank you, guys.
Michelle?
Right on time. Ryan, it is your show from here on out.
Hey, good morning, everybody. So glad to have you, and we are pretty much, we're ahead of schedule. So, as always, we start with strategic goal number one, focused on employer services and solutions. So we'll give you guys some updates on the key performance indicators that we've got going on for the year so far. So about 40%, where we were hoping to be on engagement with employers, and ahead of where we wanted to be or thought we could be with direct job seeker referrals and total counts on, news blasts, referrals directly through like a resume or an application, job fair attendance, and times and instances we know that people connected directly with employers. You can see the count of hiring event and employers connected to talent pipelines activity that we've had. So that talent pipeline one continued to be a little bit tricky just because we are in August, but we're trying to see how many employers we can get at least 10 people hired from, not referred, but hired. Out of all that referral activity of over 5,800 people, And we're not limiting ourselves to 30 employers by any means. We're just trying to see, can we get to 30 that have hired at least that many? Because we're always tracking that people that are helped through our programs are getting jobs, through job fairs, or again, the outreach efforts and special programming that we have that we'll give updates on. But yeah, it's been a little slow so far. I mean, some of it's just not getting feedback, and others is just continue to be, I mean, we'll talk about it, but just kind of continue to be kind of the climate right now. But we have had 2 rapid response services, so that's lots more than 2 activities, but 2 instances that employers have announced they're closing, and Bianca will give an update on one of those here in a moment. But we're tracking over 160 people that have been impacted and served through those 2 instances. 23 needs assessments have been completed by employers, and the employers continue to rate a high level of service on the satisfaction survey when they complete those. So any questions about the metrics and the performance indicators before I do some storytelling?
What exactly is the needs assessment, of the employer?
That's a great question. Bianca or Matt, you guys want to take that one? And you'll need a microphone if you're talking, so wherever that's at.
So the needs assessment, after we had that SWOT initiative, we had kind of came back together locally and we came up with things for a needs assessment. So we really just tried to ask them like contact information, what shifts are you hiring for? Do you guys do certain screenings? What are points that are good for you guys that are working and what is not so good? And then just asking them, would they like to sit down and have a sit down meeting to go over these things? So that kind of just lets us know ahead of time what we're looking at and what they're needing.
So how are you targeting who you're reaching out to?
We actually, Jake and I have a distribution list that we use when we're having like certain hiring events and things. So we kind of push that out to all of our people. So just employers that we typically will work with or have worked with in the community.
And they do ask if there's any training needs. That's just,
Mhm.
well, when we were meeting locally for SWAT, I mean, we were building in the ability to identify when other partners need to be contacted.
Great question. All right, so we did have an event on July 14th, so about a month ago, and just some quick setup on this. We promoted it, mentioned this at the last board meeting, but just in case anybody didn't catch it. Undesk, that Shannon had mentioned earlier, has developed a platform. They have had a platform for years, aiming to have frontline workers that don't always have access to electronic equipment and messaging services to have that. And what they've done is they've basically just layered in language translation now. So they've had a new product. They've been demoing this and actually using it, deploying it across the country. But when John met Jeremy Jacobs, the owner of that company, he wanted sort of an audience with employers. And long story short, we got to this event with a lot of refugee and immigrant service providers, because the target audience would be employers that have people that might have more limited English that would have a need for translation. So we were able to get this SHRM accredited as well. We ran some data too to kind of show how this audience has really grown. So you can see on the far right, the population growth just in South Central, all 10 counties, although the bulk has happened in Warren County, it's outpacing the regular population growth 9 times over. So we've got nearly 18,000 last data count that live in South Central Kentucky, and we've got about 12,000 of those roughly that are participating in the labor force. So it's a big audience, and it's been growing. Here's proof too of how it kind of weighs foreign born against native born. You can see there all of the net growth in our region since 2010 has come from that audience. We would have actually been in decline had it not been for that population entering the workforce, coming in various ways, obviously having work authorization and having jobs. And then you can see with just that prime age there, that's what's considered when you're in your mid-20s to mid-50s. You're in your prime, apparently. But that's the lingo talk there. And yeah, if you want to debate that with others, feel free to. But that's just standard language. And so then you can also see the labor participation rates difference between native born and new Americans. Again, showing the same tracking since 2010, where one is shrinking and one is growing. But we've got 1 in 10 households now in the region that speaks a language other than English at home, and that's about 12,000 households. So that all led to us having the event. By all measures, it was a success. Jeremy, I know there in the top left, who there is getting interviewed by WNKY that came out and did some coverage, was very, very impressed. It moved some of the conversations that he has been having with employers forward. We did have sort of a panel of service providers that touted their services. We had an employer panel that said some amazing things. And then we had networking with a good lunch, again, sponsored by Jeremy there at Undesk. So, but his team did an amazing job. Everybody really pulled together in 4 hours. We said what we needed to say, and some of the survey feedback that we got was it should have been longer. That's always what gets said when we try to make it short, but we had over 100 people. I would say we had about 22 target audience employers. That would be employers that do hiring in the region. And then we had 14 other companies sort of adjacent, may serve businesses similar to how our board does, 8 service providers. And then we did invite other workforce development agencies, some of our counterparts from across the state. And local chamber, Bowling Green Area Chamber of Commerce was there. So we had some other friendlies in the room. But we did have, again, great feedback from the employers that said it was a great use of their time, and that the employer panel was useful and insightful, and everybody left with at least, filled out the survey anyway, so they left with at least one resource, contact, or strategy, which is again, was a main aim that we had from the event, so.
What was the quote of the event, would you say, Brian?
The quote of the event?
From one of our employers.
Oh, yeah, so, let me go back to the picture here. So Scott Maxwell, he's sitting next to me in that top right picture. He is the plant manager at Kiru that I've already heard say some amazing things. They hired Burmese individuals years ago, straight out of high school, and they would say that their second shift is one of their highest producing shifts. But they were receiving, I think that same day, a safety recognition of so many days, so many years without safety incidences. But he said their company would not have continued and survived over the years if it had not been for their foreign-born workforce. So, and I told him his check was in the mail. So, yeah. And I got to see
They
him yesterday.
were in real trouble
Yeah.
with their workforce, and then basically hired their first 2 Burmese speakers. Didn't have roles for them, but hired them, and now they have a whole shift of Burmese speakers.
So.
And I made contact with an insurance guy who hooked us up with a guy. Now I have insurance at Shaka, the health insurance.
Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
At that event.
At that event.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was incredible. It's probably one of the best I've seen for so many different employers and agencies and came together. I thought it was fantastic.
It's the best event we've ever held. I mean, we've tried this before, and we would struggle. We'd struggle to get an audience, especially, we really struggle to get employers. Everybody's busy, we understand, but we were really happy with this event.
And we want to take it to other audiences too. I mean, it's pretty easy to see there's a platform to try to do this with reentry and justice involved youth, transitioning military. I mean, we need a sponsor who wants to do lunch and maybe has something else to offer in the space, and then we can get everybody else together. The pieces of it are pretty plug and play.
Yeah, I mean, to give you a sense of what Undesk has got, what their platform does, I mean, it's really a kiosk, right? So you have there's in a factory, let's say a factory setting, you can have a kiosk at the front desk, you can have a kiosk in the cafeteria, you can have a kiosk at your, on the production line, you can have a kiosk over at the quality assurance, and each one can have their own interface that's specific to wherever they are. You can have a kiosk in the HR department, but they can take all your documents, get them all uploaded. So if somebody's onboarding, take all your onboarding documents, they'll take through the power of AI and what they've done, they can move all that into any language. And so a Burmese speaker could fill out a safety incident in Burmese, and by the time it gets back to the plans manager, it gets converted back into English.
Mm-hmm.
It's very, very impressive, very seamless. And so you can start to mitigate a lot of the concerns you might have in that environment. And so there can be applications. We've talked about is there an application we could leverage in the Kentucky Career Center? Is there an application that the DMV could you know,
Yeah.
that's, I'm asking questions that Jeremy's probably already thinking. about.
Hospitals.
But as we think about, you know, we have new Americans that we want a place to work, and the primary concern is safety and how are they going to integrate it in the company? And this platform is not going to solve every issue or concern an employer might have, but it will. It's the best thing we've ever seen. So,
Yeah, he mentioned to me on the phone last week, Jeremy, when I was talking to him, that he's been talking to the Uzbekistan company that's coming here, Akva. And they need everything translated, so he's like, use our platform, it'll just. So it's not even just once you're up and running, like even just a company like that coming internationally, which is another cool feature with the employer panel that I found out even QSI started in another country, so. All of the employers that were represented started outside the US. And now have a, you know, strong employment base here in our region. Okay, now we will transition to Ms. Bianca with an update on the carrier rapid response. And yeah, if you want to come, maybe stand over here so the camera can see you better too.
Okay, so I'm Bianca. So recently, of course, you guys knew that Carrier is closing down, so we were able to go in there and do our teamwork like we always do. So first, we done our community partner event, and thank you guys for the partners that showed up. And we actually split that up into 2 sessions so that we could make sure that we were hitting all groups and all shifts. We do feel like that most employees did take advantage of that and was able to talk about getting back into training and different things that they were needing or interested in. And then after that, we scheduled to come back on July the 15th, and we had people to sign up for resume help. So with that, we kind of created a template that Shannon helped us create. And so all the employees had filled out a template that kind of just told what needed to be put on their resume. And then Jake and I came back to the office and we finished those actually using AI. So that was actually great. And easy for us for sure. And then after that, we had our job fair on August the 5th. We had 19 employers that participated in that. And we did that from 12 to 4 on site so that people could come. So we had 3rd shift employees came, 1st shift and then 2nd shift was there. So they actually got to come in as well. So we had a lot of people that were saying that they got offers that day. So we will do our follow-up and we'll get data for that event as well. Layoffs do start at the end of the month, and will continue out. So yeah, any questions?
How many people were affected by that?
70.
Yeah, so this is not one of the more pleasant aspects of what we do. We consider our business services or engagement and outreach, but Jake and Bianca have a really, I mean, unfortunately, we could say well-oiled plan because we've had to deploy it so many times over the years to, you know, come out, like she said, with this multi-phased effort to talk to the employers very early on as soon as we find out, then schedule these kind of on-site in-house initiatives where the employees don't even have to leave if we can make it work that way. And that's what's happened so far here with Carrier. And as much as we may have employers not participating in some of the job fairs and we might offer them, they're always interested in these because these are highly skilled people or people with a lot of experience. And maybe also because there's a soft spot, right? You don't want to see somebody go without and have a lapse in employment. So I try to scoop them up as quickly as possible. All right. And then for the next one, strategic goal number 2, so it keeps blocking everything up here. This is just more of our project-based goal, thing that we're trying to give ourselves credit for initiatives, various things that we're involved in. So, yes, we have some things that we tried and expanded earlier this year or deployed for the first time. This opioid abatement grant, which is actually going on in its 2nd day of training right now for our first cohort. Not only do we get that grant, now we'll be reporting on the progress of it. It's going to be for the next 2 years. Streamlining our services to customers. That was basically trying to see if we could add texting capability to our business service team to do outreach, especially when these folks are let go from a job. The work to get the Career Center co-located with Goodwill is progressing and still in progress. Again, a reminder, some of these things now that we're more than halfway through the year are already complete, but we we don't necessarily set out a goal on these things. It's just kind of as they happen, we're noting them and we're seeing kind of what stage they're in. But the Blue Opal rapid response was a big effort and initiative, and our counterparts in Lincoln Trail took on most of that since it was in the region, but we assisted. We have a contract with adult ed to do a special program called the SB 90 funding. And that's running, and there's folks that are working in that capacity. We also were getting feedback to give to the state about in-demand and relevant career and technical ed pathways that was submitted to them. SWAT operations retreat, and just to report out, John and Jake and I attended that. We'll have some slides on that here in a sec. Continue to want to see if we can, offer some new HR training in collaboration with the Logan Area Chamber of Commerce. We've got an idea of just kind of an old idea that we could recycle and offer a little bit more to get new HR or new to HR at that company, new to the company HR, and a training that just introduces them to all the partners and resources and some data that we have on the workforce here in our region. And then, of course, we continue to have relationships with local, regional, and state stakeholders in various means, including some of you board members that participate in some of these things, and in our involvement with the SkySherm group too. It's a mouthful, but anyway, the main update here and the highlight is just there was a SWAT operation retreat at the end of July. Again, John, Jake, and I, Jingleheimer Smith, all attended. And 68 people total, so 65 others of us all got together in a room, and they put us to work. John was on a work group leading that, and we hashed out some things that hopefully stand up some of the ways that this will be implemented across the state. So it's definitely a very active work group. Yeah, all of the 10 workforce board regions were represented at that as well. John, anything you want to add? To the event itself?
I'll wait until you
Okay.
have the next.
So these next two slides were shown at the retreat, so yeah.
Okay, I mean, this is a very busy, hard to read slide, but Becca was there too. Right now what this really boils down to is how do we communicate better from up and down, from the state level down to the local level, and then from left to right. Obviously there's a lot of different organizations and bureaucracies that get involved in between economic development and workforce development. I mean, at the cabinet level, you have an economic development cabinet, you have a workforce or a labor and education and labor cabinet, and you've got your post-secondary organizations and your secondary organizations. And how do we better align? How do we better communicate? And this slide kind of depicts that you've got all these organizations that are kind of floating around out there, but it's not very aligned. Communication is kind of haphazard across the board. And then what SWAT is trying to do, you go forward, Brian, it's really trying to say, okay, can we get this better aligned so that we can have better communication up, down, right, left across all the various organizations that are out there, state government organizations, local workforce organizations, industry, education. This is a very difficult task. But there's a lot of energy and effort going into this, that the current administration really wants to get this hammered out, published, and in practice for the next year or so, and get it kind of locked in, get it institutionalized across as many of these organizations as possible before there's a change in administration. Because there's going to be a lot of goodness to this. Dr. Myers has been involved in this. We've been working on this for over a year. I would say the meeting that we had a couple of weeks ago it leapt forward. This meeting leapt us forward. But Dr. Myers, do you have any comments on this?
No, I just, and I wasn't able to go because of a conflict, but Rebecca went to represent, because it was KCTCS has really been leading the charge along with the education, labor.
That's correct.
Cabinet and economic development. And it's been in conversation, gosh, for probably 2.5 years.
Yeah.
At that state level. And then we got closely involved when they had a company reach out to the state And they're like, oh, this is the perfect place to test that concept. And we started by literally just bringing everybody into the room at the KCTCS system office and learn, you know, some things that work well, learn some things that, yep, that's not gonna work. Kind of thing. But I think you're right. And we've had some local groups to meet and so forth, but I think the intent of this meeting was, and Rebecca was there, so she can speak to it, but it really was to try to operationalize. We've got all these great ideas. Now let's sit down and have a working session and figure out how we're gonna bring it. So, you know, I go back to, and I have a great working relationship with Bianca and Jake. But as I'm looking at, you know, we were in the room where we talked about developing a needs assessment. But, you know, what comes to mind is, okay, well, you've got a needs assessment, you talk to a company about a sit down, let's get together and go with them, kind of thing. So it's how do we develop a system operational?
The way it's gonna operationalize, I think, is when that sit down meeting gets organized, as many players as possible are in that same, we're all going together.
Yeah, and then, and this is a universal problem. It's a nationwide problem. And our joke at KCTCS is we've got to coordinate because otherwise you've got the workforce person coming out the door as your foundation person's going in. You know, that's just not good practice. So, and it does really happen.
And at the end of the day, employers get bombarded by all these different folks and that's confusing for them and we need to reduce that confusion.
Anything you want to add?
Yeah, I was at the employer discovery process table with Jake, and we were looking at needs assessment, and we were also looking at the steps that we take to engage an employer. And we kind of came up with like a 3-step process of the first time, maybe workforce boards engaging, and then with that needs analysis, and then in between that time and the second meeting. We talked about then reaching out to other community partners or other services that need to be at the table for the second meeting. So we worked on that. Obviously, it's not in concrete or anything. But yeah, I would love to continue to see that maybe played out in our region. Like we can potentially lead in that way with the development and the continuation of how to do SWAT well in our region. So.
And I think one of the key factors, and I've preached this for a long time, is this idea of single point of contact. That doesn't mean one person. So whoever has that relationship sort of owns that relationship. But if Kendra needs something, but I'm not the person to deliver it, but she knows that, you know, we've got a relationship and that I'm connected with that, she can call me and it might be a handoff to Joda. But then as that point of contact, as that trusted partner is the phrase that we've used, but I'm gonna stay on, you know, with Joda until I know Kendra got what she wanted, but I'm gonna hand it off to wherever it goes. So that's how to navigate that
that's what we're trying to operationalize. So, but there's a follow-up meeting this morning at 11 with Commissioner Yoder. We're gonna see how they're taking all the different groups, all the feedback from. They've got it all kind of consolidated. We're going to go through it.
So is that just the education library folks that follow?
I'd have to look at the
Oh,
invite.
well, no.
I think it's with the group. So we had 6 breakout groups. I think it's with the group, and I was one of the leading one of the group breakout groups. So I think it's just it's a smaller audience.
Yeah, just to let you guys in on some of how the sausage is made, we're basically all Jerry Maguire shouting out, help me help you. And when they shout, show me the money, we have to figure out if I don't have the money, how can I get to the person that does? So yeah, it's going on like that in every part of the state. Okay, so strategic goal number 3, this is where we're trying to educate and prepare job seekers. We really focus in on what our WIOA efforts look like here, but we also give highlight and some emphasis to what our 16 to 24-year-old Ready Set Hire program. And we had a big feature on that last month. If you missed it, go back and watch the YouTube video. But we've done that now for over 2 years, and we're showing mostly our year-to-date efforts here on this screen. But we're only over 3,000 youth engaged. Only over 3,000. Shannon and Laura, right? And you're only going to be a little busy next month now that school's back in session, trying to get signups, trying to get new kids enrolled, get papers sent home with the new school paperwork. So hopefully that hit a bunch of households last night. And we'll hit more in the next week as more schools turn on. But we've got over 400 nearly 450 of the youth enrolled so far this year. And then that's generating a lot of referrals to job seekers, mostly through text blasts and promotion opportunities that we have there, since we have the texting capabilities. And we're tracking over 233 got hired in that 12-month period, the last fiscal year. So we originally set out to do about 250. And so pretty much on pace there. It's pretty amazing to see that many employment outcomes come together. So now I'll turn it over to Matt with updates on some of our WIOA numbers and engagements here.
Okay, we're well underway for this program year. I'm maybe from the December meeting, remember us talking about the June meeting, or we always kind of front load on the front end so we can make sure that we're going to hit all of our numbers early. And that gives us a little bit of relief towards the end of the year to reset for the following year. You can see right now between active participants and follow-up, there's 300 participants. So that's about an average of 100 participants per career advisor. These numbers up top also do not include the new opioid abatement grant that we're working with too. So we have that running as well. For adult dislocated worker, severe storms, I believe we're only about a month into the year, but we are well into about month 3 of enrollment on those. So we're ahead of those marks. NDWG Quest, you can see 2 enrollments down there. We are on year 3 of that grant. It's getting ready to end at the end of September. So that's kind of just rounding out those dollars. This is why you see low enrollment there. John mentioned employment recovery earlier with the AI portion. That's only after, I believe we did it, about 3 weeks? About 3 weeks, and we had 26 participants coming through employment recovery. After the RFP goes through and we get back up and running with that, that'll take off again. Youth, that's the only one I haven't mentioned. Youth, there's a number within the youth funding stream to hit, and that's to have a lot of them participate in the work experience. So right now on the front end, most of those youth are actually out there working, doing work experience internships.
Thank you, Matt. Any questions for Matt? So about 300 people and caseload right now. Yeah. Doesn't usually come out to a round number like that. Okay, strategic goal number 4. This is where we're usually highlighting our outreach to focus populations and doing things to remove barriers to increase their workforce potential and participation potential, I should say. So just to not show these all at the same time, you can see what our engagements have looked like with new Americans and with our military veterans. We are in a transition phase right now. So unfortunately, Alexa Hatcher, our new American Workforce Navigator, had to step away from the role and move back home. So we do have that position open through tomorrow for applications. It's been open for nearly 3 weeks now, and interested candidates can send a resume and cover letter to Deronda. And so we will be scoring applicants and calling people in for interviews soon. Hope to have somebody by hopefully early mid-September, just on the time frame of all of that. So right after the summit, she stepped away. So we'll fire that back up and increase our engagements and individuals engaged and job outcomes and things. But that shows where that's at. And then with the justice involved population, primarily being served through the Reentry and Employment Services branch of adult education, you're getting ready to hear a fabulous presentation and data update from them. But just to show some of the total numbers, just year to date, you're going to hear much more than just since January here in a moment. But only 75 engagements have been, only nearly 700 individuals engaged. Like, it's just amazing, right? But 98 have received supportive services, and over 100 we know we're tracking employment outcomes for. So it's just amazing to see the engagement that's going on there. And if anybody has any questions on these numbers, we'll take those now. And then if not, I am going to turn it over to a power team here of Mike and Brittany, take turns giving you guys a fiscal year update on their branch operations.
I don't know about power team. I mean, I think we identified earlier, I'm past my prime. So if you go to the next slide. So what I talked to Brian and John, and one of the things that our program, Putting Kentuckians First, and the contract with the South Central Workforce Board, we're going into our 4th year. So through that, there's a lot of work on the Workforce Board team in supporting that contract and our partnerships that we have throughout the state. But I thought it was really good for once, and something I haven't done before, is a step back and say, this is the impact we made last year throughout the entire state because of the contract that's supported by the South Central Workforce Board. And I think that's a big part of it. Is that, yeah, we always talk about South Central because that's where we live. I live here. I care about South Central. But this contract is a statewide program through the Education and Labor Cabinet. So in that, we are operating in some capacity in all 10 Workforce Board regions in some capacity, right? So I say that the majority of those are full on everything we do in South Central, we're doing in all those workforce boards. A couple of them were a little spotty, like Northern Kentucky, we're not quite up there yet, but we are doing stuff in Northern Kentucky. So we are operating in 52 out of the 74 local jails. And when I mean operating, we're doing a regular programming inside of those county jails. So the state of Kentucky technically has 77 county jails. 3 of them are just life safety jails. 74 of them are full service jails. So we're operating 52 out of 74, which is incredible when you look at the footprint across the state. And then throughout, and these numbers are FY26, so our fiscal year closes out like the state does, right? So July 1 to June 30th, we impacted 70 out of 120 counties throughout the state, right? So we had a footprint and impact in 70 out of 120 counties. So next slide, please. I'm a data guy. If you can't tell, I love numbers. I appreciate Brian's assistance in all the pretty slides, right? I sent him white slides with just data, and he turned it into this. So I appreciate that. When we talk about that partnership with the board, that's part of it. Is
Administrative support too.
Yeah, because I just came in here and be like, look, this is the data. What do you want? You know, but Brian helped out with that. So these are our numbers across the entire state, right? So in FY26, we had 1,339 individuals enter the Putting Kentuckians First program. So those people who scanned the QR code, made it to our spreadsheets. And we really define that by individuals that are accepting our services, because just because you scan it, if we can't ever get in contact with you, you never return a phone call, you ghost us, we have to delineate that a little bit. So out of individuals that truly worked with us, we were almost 1,100. Now that's a great number, because over the last 4 years, we've gone from where it was maybe 40% of individuals accepting our services, and now we're pushing 80, right? So 75% to 80% of everyone that enters our program works with us for services. And then we break it down again, is that out of those 75% that enter our program that work with us, 75% of them are getting employed, right? Which is a phenomenal conversion rate, right? So when you look at that last year, 1,339 people in our program, 1,091 of them accepted our services, and 837 positive employment placements. So individuals serve through formal training opportunities. So we have a bunch of different funding streams, right? So we have our money that comes through adult education through that. We also have supportive service funds that come through the Office of Drug Control Policy, plus some additional grants that we kind of work through to compile. So individuals through formal training opportunities, that money is that money that was allotted to us from the Office of Drug Control Policy that we use for formal training, supportive services, ID services, birth certificates. And I'm really happy to say that through the hard work of Aaron and our team and what we were able to do with that $100,000 last year, they have granted to us again this year, right? So it's kind of rolling, and we're kind of, which is really exciting to have, because it opens up a lot of windows. So next slide. So in this, out of the individuals, so we have 7 navigators, and I'll show that number here in a minute, but we were able to impact and serve 3,076 individuals that are incarcerated. So we had direct impact and influence in speaking to those individuals. We had 1,378 individuals served through supportive services and ID programs. So the supportive services could be like, we just need a pair of steel toe boots because we got them a job at Pan Awesome. So we buy them steel toe boots if it works in there, right? So with our supportive services, it's for lack of a better term, it's a pay before we play, right? So we're going to get you a positive employment placement, and then we will fill the need of what that supportive service is. So we're not just buying boots for everybody out there. It's like, once we get you a job, we know what the need is to fulfill that job, then we kind of jump in and help out. And there's limited values in what we'll spend per person. And then our ID programs, and then targeted service orientation. So this is where I know some of y'all that's been on board for a while, you've heard me say that we take the physical location of the Career Center and we make it a virtual location throughout the state. And that's where we get our numbers from. So whether it's through scanning a QR code on the PKF sheet and the flyer, or us doing these targeted orientations, which are set up in the county. So once a month, our team sets up in Metcalfe County at Adult Ed, and we do this programming where we bring these supportive services directly to the individual so they don't have to travel to 803 Chestnut Street. So out of that, throughout the state, we had just over 1,100 people impacted and attend those classes, which is wonderful. Next.
And I'll say real quick, the supportive services, when RES pays for that, that means WIOA does not.
Yeah,
So
oh yeah, no, we're full.
funded, right? So we're
I
saying,
cut the checks.
yeah,
Right.
yeah.
So that's not coming out. So we have 7 navigators, which is Brittany's one of our navigators. We have 7 navigators spread throughout the state. So collectively, we were able to serve just over 7,000 Kentuckians with 7 people across the program and produce 837 jobs, right? So I don't know, I take the Pepsi challenge if you're a little old school with a lot of programs out there, what we're doing there. So next slide. All right, so employment services branch operations. So statewide employment audits. I've talked about this in the past as well. It's just not 837 placements and we let them be. Twice a year, our team calls every single person that we put a job placement with. We validate, are you still working? Have you received an increase in pay? Are you at a different location? How much are you making? Do you have any other needs? So it's not a set it and forget it. We really do try and follow up for at least 12 months. So out of that, in our fall 2025 audit, we were able to positively contact 320 individuals in 49 counties and 10 workforce boards, and the average salary of all those individuals were $13.66 an hour. So go to next. And then our spring audit, we were able to contact additional, as we go through the year and we add more people, 418 individuals in 51 counties, 9 workforce board regions, and 1457 was the average pay for those individuals. So this is where I get a little introspective because I love numbers, right? So if we go to the next slide. So in that, throughout fiscal year 26, in supportive services, so that's ID services and those clothing gaps and everything, we spent $56,472 direct to participant. So that's the other thing I want to talk about, the ODCP money that we receive as a grant. None of that money supports anyone's salary. That is direct to participant. They give us $100 grand, we send $100 grand out the door direct to participants. We don't take a cut. We don't do any of that off that money. So in that 56,000, and then in formal training, we spent just shy of $50,000 in formal training. So that's in partnership with South Central Workforce Board. That's in partnership with some Goodwill services through Forklift U. These are programmings that we did inside of facilities. It's supporting MRT classes and just anything we can do to kind of give them a step up. So you see the total direct spending. So if you take our 837 positive employment outcomes, that is an average spend of $126.86 per participant to produce those jobs, right? So, and I had somebody say, well, Mike, that's just from the money you spend on supportive services. You got salaries. So when we look at it, in my annual report that I did, I break that down even further. So if you include all of our team's salaries, all of the contracts, everything else, it's $701 to produce a job, including our salaries, right? So along with supportive services, which is still a phenomenal rate of return. So next slide. So then I like to this is where I get a little introspective, is I assumed 20 hours per week, right? So part-time employment. I will tell you that 97% of our people are full-time employment. That's 37 plus hours a week. But just from an argumentative perspective, I said 20 hours per week at the average statewide salary, which is $14.12 per hour. That would be an annual income of the 837 jobs of just over $12 million. So in that $12 million, using what we pay in federal taxes at a 12% tax rate, that would produce $1.5 million in federal taxes paid in, which in turn with a 3.5% Kentucky state tax rate, that's just shy of $400 or just over $430,000 that they paid in state taxes. Now these numbers are much higher because, like I said, 97% of our people are full-time employees doing 37 plus hours a week, but this is assuming 20 hours a week at the average rate of salary. So when the reason I love these numbers is, yeah, so if we spend $126 per participant with those jobs, or including salary, $701, the impact that that's causing is much greater in the state of Kentucky. And these are individuals that would otherwise be underserved or not served at all. So,
Or
Maybe back to
maybe,
trouble.
maybe receiving benefits that they now
Right.
don't need.
Now they don't need.
You're not even-
I'm not even counting the social services step back that comes from being employed at a full-time rate. Like that would just be too much. That would be not too much for me. It would be too much for some people to handle, right? So, no, I actually already have that number. And what's crazy is if you look at, I did calculate all these numbers based on people's actual full-time employment. And it is just astronomical, right? So when people's like, why are you buying a pair of steel-toed work boots for them? Because it produces $12 million in income influenced into our economy, right? That's why I bought him a pair of steel-toed work boots, and it reduced the socioeconomic impact on the state by astronomical numbers. So anyways, I can keep going on about this. I like numbers.
Well, we do have South Central numbers too.
Yeah,
We can keep
yeah.
going.
So this was the state. Now we're going to kind of take it back and we're going to look directly at what we did just here in South Central and 10 County region. And this is Brittany behind me, her work, right? So her work with her partners and her teams. So throughout FY26, we had 320 PKF intakes, 252 of those accepting our services, 182 positive employment placements, so 72%, and 34 individuals received formal training, right? That we contributed to that. So out of that, 790 incarcerated individuals contacted and served, 184 individuals served through ID and supportive services, and 461 people attended targeted service orientation. And on a note on that is, if you remember, we were about 1,100 of individuals attended targeted orientation classes throughout the state. Half of that was in South Central. So our partners in South Central, Brittany's impact and really kind of driving that is instrumental, right? I mean, the numbers show that when they attend these remote meetups in the counties where they don't have to travel, everything else rises, right? So South Central and our partners are just phenomenal with supporting that, advertising and getting the information out there. Next slide. Yeah, so total individuals impacted by Brittany, 1,789 people, which is just incredible.
We need to pick up the
That's
page.
Yeah, no, look. I told her, I said, come talk to me when you hit 2,000. Now that's weak sauce she's got right there, but so all right. So in that, looking at our average through our employment contacts throughout FY26, 1,539 was the average rate. So in South Central, those 182 jobs produced just shy of $3 million in economic impact of individuals earning salaries. And then you see the rest of the numbers there. So, and once again, the majority of people we hired, I don't think anyone in South Central is hired on a part-time basis, right? Out of that 182, all of them were full-time employees. So you can just extrapolate that and double that, right? So $6 million in economic impact. No, I think that's,
And yeah, well,
and then I'm gonna turn it over to
Sure.
Brittany.
You're
Yeah, no, I'm good.
You
Good.
got
I'm sorry, did anybody have any questions about any of that?
Any more numbers you
Um,
want to share?
Yeah, so one thing that if I don't want to roll back, and I should have mentioned when we were up there, is our enrollment numbers. So a lot of people say like, well, is that steady? Is that growth? Year over year, it's growth, right? So we have more people coming into our program, more people impacted. So from FY25 to FY26, we averaged about 19.37% growth in numbers, somewhere between 19.37 and 19.7, depending if you're looking at positive job placements, accepting our services, and just enrollments. So 19.5% overall was our growth from FY25 to FY26. And that really does kind of matriculate down through all of the workforce board as well, right? So it's as a program wise, and then specifically in the workforce board area. So, yes, ma'am.
My question is about the average pay. Is that just within the people you work with, or is that our average?
No. That's the people that we
Okay.
contact.
Okay,
And so that's not, that's based on us calling and saying, how much money are you making?
okay,
And then I run an average based on every single person we contact. So it's not a extrapolated number. It's based on the real values we get.
okay.
That's how I determine that, because it's the easiest way for our programs to look at the real numbers.
And these numbers are after incarceration. You're
Yeah.
not working with anyone in. Oh, we're.
Right. So we are working with some individuals that are in work release programming while they're in the facility, but these numbers specifically that I showed you are individuals who have exited incarceration, exited treatment, or in the middle of treatment. Some of them are still working in that. but just individuals that we've placed.
But Brittany's meeting them in,
Yeah.
while they're incarcerated or
Oh,
in recovery.
We spend a lot of hours of those 40 hours a week inside of jails, and we love it.
I'm asking, of course, that's a big
Yeah.
objective of ours, and I know there've been some local counties that have come to us and they don't really have programs currently while individuals are still incarcerated.
Yeah.
And wanted to see, like, there's others out there, I think, but.
There is. Yeah, so even local, Hart County used to have a great program running with Kentucky Chrome, and that's kind of, fallen to the wayside. And some of that is not necessarily the facility or the county or the employer. Some of it's shaped by programming at the state level. So the individuals that can go and work outside the facility, you get into the idea they got to be a Class D and they got to be a certain level of Class D, and then they've got to be available for public work release. And then because Class D numbers throughout the state at the county facilities have continued to drop, right? So most of the Class D, which would be individuals on the kind of lower level of felony offenders, right? So incarcerated greater than 12 months, less than 5 years. Most of those have been moved to a lot of the adult institutions, so the 14 prisons. So the Class D individuals we have at local county jails, not all of them, but the good majority of them, their numbers are so low that they have just enough to support the work that they contract through with the county. So road cleanup and trash in some states and all that. So to be able to bring in a employment program and on top of that, they just don't even have numbers to be able to support, right? So you may have 100 Class D individuals incarcerated at your facility, only 30 of them are eligible for outside work. And out of those 30, you have a contract with your county to support road cleanup, and you need all 30 of them, right? So the age of that program, it's not over with. It's just right now that's the environment we're working in, so it makes it really kind of challenging. That's really what you saw happen a little bit in Hart County, along with Kentucky Chrome's, shifting mentality up there. But it's just we don't have enough Class D individuals to. Some of the counties don't have, across the state, don't have enough Class D individuals to staff their road crews that they're contractually obligated to do. So.
Plus, they'll often have roles in the jail, right?
They do, right? So that
Where
gets
you go to jail
into
and
all those different, so
see people
underneath
walking
Class
around.
D, then you have like these level 1, level 2, level 3 classifications. And inside that, some of them are authorized for additional work services, but not outside facilities. So you see those individuals working inside the galley or the kitchen, sorry, I'm a military guy. So they're doing those things, but so yeah, it does get to be a little bit complex, but what we're shooting for, and the reason we're doing, so the training opportunities we're doing inside of the jail facility. So we are, just like with our work ready boot camps, we're preparing the individual. So upon release, they have a resume that reads, they have a skill set that reads. What we are working for across the state is more of a direct talent pipeline from the facilities into those. And that's why we've been doing some of those job fairs at the completion of training in the facilities. Like this guy is, or this lady's going to be released here in the next 30 days. They've got this training. Let's go ahead and interview them. Let's get them a pipeline so that we don't have this gap. So Brittany's job is like, all right, you're out, boom, let's get you some closure, moving, you're working tomorrow. And that's the more we focus on shortening the gap between release and employment, the more success we're going to have with the individuals and the less likely of recidivism occurring. So any other questions?
Thank you, Pastor.
You're welcome.
The last name up the graph is Dutch for increase the charts, right?
That's right.
Yeah.
Like, look,
Grow the charts.
take it up another notch, right? That's what we're looking for.
Always.
All right, now we have Miss Brittany.
Okay, I'm gonna take you through a story of Stacy Colvin. Isn't he awesome? Stacy was incarcerated at the Butler County Detention Center. Shout out to Amy. She had a lot of help in this. But he had started working on his GED before being incarcerated. He got incarcerated, continued working on it. He did the Work Ready Boot Camp and was awesome at that. Speaking of the ID services, we were able to provide the birth certificate and ID so that once he did get released, well, first he was able to complete the boot camp, but once he did get released, he could find employment. When he got out, he went to see Miss Amy at her office, finished his GED, and he got a job where he makes $23 an hour. I was able to provide him with steel-toe boots so he could continue that job. It was really cool. One day we did the targeted services orientation that I do the first Tuesday of every month in Butler County, and he came in with his family. Amy had a cake and got him dressed up in his gown, and we all got to celebrate him completing his GED. and it was phenomenal. Tears were shed, just saying. But I did talk to him yesterday and he is off parole. He is still sober. He's still working his job, making $23 an hour. And he said that I asked him what his favorite thing about being out was, and he said his family and God. So he is doing phenomenal, and he is definitely one of our success stories that we love because as an older gentleman that he is, being able to get his GED and get the training that he got and finally get a job that he enjoys, and making $23 an hour and anything to, laugh about. He's able to stay sober and live that path and be able to be in his kid's life. So he's doing awesome. And he's one of the many stories that we have, but I had to share him and shout out because he utilized almost every service we offer. So he did awesome. And that's the key. They have to want it as much as we want it because we can want it for them all day. But until they do, nothing will happen. But he did great. And all he needed was steel toe boots. So we paid maybe $50 for him. And now he's making $23 an hour. So any questions? No.
Brittany is a super navigator. She's a rock star. So we appreciate what she does.
Yes, thank you guys for the amazing update. I know that was, we were excited to share that with everybody. So now with our organizational performance and accountability goals, strategic goal here, we give you guys an update on where we are here. And the first one is tackle the improving our financial stability. John.
Yeah, I'm gonna go quickly on this. We've met this goal. The goal we set at the beginning of the year is find another $250,000, and we've doubled that. So we've found $557,000 dollars in new funding, and then we've renewed almost $1 million. You can see there on the right, and then the reskill grant I mentioned would be if it comes through, that'd be 1.6 million over 3 years. It'd be about a little over 500,000 a year of new funds for us. Okay, move forward one. Fiscal compliance, external audit, that is just getting underway. So we're in progress on that, and everything in the middle has been met. And then we set a goal at the beginning of the year to update 10 of our local policies. This is pretty dry stuff, but a lot of our policies were written in 2017, 2018, and really were getting antiquated. And so we've been on this deliberate process of meeting with the governance committee, presenting them updated policies, and then bringing it to board for approval. So we're halfway through, and we've got our next 2 meetings set on the calendar to hit our 10. All right. And I think that is back over to you, Brian.
Yeah, so just any discussion, comments? We're not leaving just yet, but just wanted to open the floor. Online is welcome to chime in as well.
Who's filling the role in the New American piece?
Yeah, so since Alexa stepped away, we have that position open, Paul, and we're accepting applications through the end of the day tomorrow. And so then we'll cut it off, and we'll look through applications for them and start contacting people for interviews. So to be determined.
Is there an interim person that's kind of handling that?
Well, so there's been a person at Goodwill, Sakina, and we've been, Alexa was starting to make some transition and referrals over to her, but not necessarily anybody in our team. Now we do have, if they were youth, they would have already been connected to Shannon and Aurora. Yeah. And I'm sorry, Shannon.
You got the answer. I just was curious if you had a lot of applicants, because I know we didn't have as many for the last thing you guys have had.
Oh, yeah. So we had a part-time position earlier this summer that we ended up not filling, at least that way yet. But we've had, I want to say we've probably had double-digit applications. It's not been a ton, but I will say this, when we had it open last spring, I want to say, Dorana can tell me if I'm wrong, that was the time when we used LinkedIn for the first time to boost. We got a lot of unqualified, so we didn't do that this time. So we feel you're paying employers when you guys do that stuff, because we were getting people that hadn't even finished high school yet. It felt like that were applying for it, and we're like, this is a high caliber job and position. And just like Brittany, I mean, lots of engagement, a lot of public facing, a lot of partner connecting that needs to happen. So it needs to be somebody that has some experience doing that. Yeah.
Yeah, I saw your look of surprise when Brian mentioned that Alexa had stepped down, but she had increasingly been having to take care of her parents, and that was the main driver of she wanted to be able to take care of her parents who are aging. So. Yeah, so we miss her, we wish her well. And but we miss her. Like this is an important role for us, and we're gonna get it. We have some quality candidates that applied, and so there'll be we'll put together a team of people to review and interview, and we'll get the right person selected.
Yep. So hopefully we'll have that person introduced to everybody at the October meeting, if not sooner, if we reach out. Yep.
It's glad you have a lot.
Yeah.
Okay. Turn this over to Don.
All right, Deronda, if you could come forward, please. We're going to say goodbye to Dr. Kim Myers today. Dr. Myers has officially been on our board for 1 year. But what most people, you probably recognize, she's always here. And I actually went back and counted since 2017. This is your 53rd board meeting since 2017. We have 6 board meetings a year, and you average attendance at like 5.6 meetings per year. Your batting average is better than many of our board members. So take that as you will. But no, Tim has been and Sky CTC. I mean, they have truly been very, very close partners of ours since Dr. Boone, kind of was here at the front end and during the early parts of the reorganization, even before the reorganization. So, and I think that's about that you came in about that same time.
I think I preceded Robert by a month.
Yeah.
So
So anyway, it is such an important relationship. I met with Dr. Treywick a couple days ago, and we just looked at some numbers. On average, we're spending about $200,000 a year of federal funds with Sky CTC on programs. So we're not your biggest partner, but we're up there. And this is but you and Sky CTC, by far and away, Sky CTC is the main training provider we rely upon. So it's a very important relationship. Dr. Myers has been integral to that for the last 9 years. And so we just want to say thank you for your service and wish you well. Do you want to make an announcement about what your next steps are?
sure, I have, thank you, Brian. I've accepted a position. Other than the fact that it is not local, it is absolutely perfect. It was truly the offer I could not refuse. And I've accepted a job as vice president for the future of work and economic mobility at Montgomery College in Montgomery County, Maryland. And they're really seeking to do some of the things I think we're ahead of the game here on, but on a much broader scale of really figuring out how can academic affairs, student affairs, and workforce all work together to give our students a better experience, particularly in internships, apprenticeships, work and learn, and coordinate that effort to make sure that students and graduates are ready for the work of the future, not today's work. Super excited about it. I start there officially on site September 8th. My family is staying here. My mom's still in Glasgow, and my family's staying here. Many of you know we have 6 adopted kiddos. 5 of them are still in school, started yesterday. Yay. and one, my oldest, who is a recent graduate of Bowling Green High, will be a freshman at Sky CTC on Monday. So we just felt like it was just too close to school starting to pull them out, and honestly don't. I mean, I've worked some with the folks there already. I think it's going to be an incredible experience. But I'll be back and forth every probably 2 to 3 weeks. Very excited about it, but it was not a hard decision to make. I'll be honest with you, it was that good. But it's a very, very tough place to leave. I think we have accomplished with the Workforce Board and with Sky CTC how all of our partners want to work together, just really in sync with things and dependent upon each other. So, so Becca will be sitting in, representing Sky CTC, much like I did for a lot of years. Because I just think it was difficult for me. How can we really serve if we don't really understand what's going on? And this was the best way to stay connected. So I appreciate it. Becca knows how to reach me. Most of you have my cell phone number, so if you need anything at all. I'm gonna try to stay out of the picture for a little bit, but it's gonna be really hard. I mean, I'm invested here. This is my home. Grew up here, lived in Cincinnati for 23 years, but I've been back for, 14 years now. And so that's why I would beg to differ what the prime of your life is. I think I'm almost there. But this has been an amazing group to work with, some great friendships and great relationships. And I appreciate everybody very much.
Congratulations.
Yeah. Like, this is just a very small thing.
No, it's been very much exciting.
Appreciate you. And I hope we can continue to learn from you.
Well, we had lunch yesterday. I've already made some notes about some things. But
You have to bring back what you learned.
well, I mean, I think there's some things that I'm really gonna be able to share there that are gonna be very valuable, but some of the things, I got an email from, I'm gonna be reporting to the provost there. And I got an email about a career pathways, and looking at some sites, and I think you were familiar with some, but I think there's gonna be some really good opportunity for collaboration there too, so.
Justin Browning has already commented road trip, so.
Come on. I got a 2-bedroom apartment for that very reason.
That wasn't my first comment.
No, okay, yes. Can I vote nay?
Yeah, but I'm 20 minutes outside of DC with 3 airports within 45 minutes of me, so come on. Yeah.
Okay, all right.
Thank you very much.
This is a great meeting. Thank you all so much. And we'll see you guys back on October, what is it, 15th. After we're all rested and relaxed after fall break. So hope everyone has a great day and we'll adjourn the meeting.
That's pretty wild. We're talking about the